Folks, welcome home. Yet another episode of Flash in the Pan here at the magnificent Shakers in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Today we have Kal, new Shakerette, with us in the greater Chicago metropolitan area, and we're here to cook a fine Spanish dish that I believe we've done once before, but Gazpacho was your request.
Yes.
And tell us why.
You asked me yesterday when we were outside, and I had probably a little bit of lip sweat dripping into my mouth, and I said, Gazpacho would sound great for today, you know? Something to not have my face overheat in the kitchen would be fantastic.
So we've done Gazpacho for many years at Shakers, and of course the time that I've spent in Spain really resonates with me, and I am much into Spanish cuisine, and certainly this dish is one of those that is a standard in Spanish cuisine. Incredibly simple, it's summertime, you want to make it fast, you don't want to spend time in the kitchen cooking because more of that lip sweat, we don't want that, right? So this is all about the celebration of the tomato. And I stopped at our friends to see our friends at the West Allis Farmers Market today. And these are freshly picked this morning at 5 o'clock. And we're going to begin with these. It's all about the tomato. So a little bit of cucumber, a little bit of chili pepper, a few herbs and spices here, basil chiffonade to top it off, extra virgin olive oil. Make sure you have a good extra virgin olive oil, not that one that's been lurking around your cabinet for a while. And though we generally don't use red wine vinegar, every once in a while it has an application, and this is one of those applications. So my recommendation is just to put this into any kind of container. Stainless steel mixing bowl is good, and then stick it in your cooler, refrigerator, for about 2 hours, and that really brings all the flavors together. Our preparation time is about 10 minutes here. So first thing, though you and I have not worked in the kitchen before, this is how we teach people how to use a knife. First, you want to get that portion off. And then if you have your fingers bridged like this, and every time you take the blade and meet it with that, you have less likelihood of cutting off your fingertips, which I'm sure you're interested in, right? So what I like to do is that we're about halfway through, I will turn it this way, because if you do that, you've got a larger portion to support everything. So we're just looking at cuts like that, so maybe 3/16, a quarter of an inch, something like that. And I'd like you to knock about, I don't know, a pound or so of these things out.
Okay,
got
beautiful.
it? Cool. So we're going to start off with, that's fine. This is a Roma-esque, so also called plums. And they have a little bit thicker skin on them, but the flavors are really delightful. So by all means, give us a combination of both of those.
So same thing, just right down here?
Right down the center. And put it sideways, right? So flush side down, it's easier to cut that way. And anytime you have a tomato that's got the, obviously the stem mark, right? So we'll cut that off, the little crown portion, and just push that off to the side. Now, while you're doing that, and lovely job of doing that, into this mixing bowl, I'm going to add the olive oil and the rice wine vinegar. And you're saying, my God, Bob, look at that. We have the beginning of a salad. It's basically a fine dressing. And in a way, this is kind of what this is. And the other part is as if we had a salsa going on here. You mix the two together and you have this incredible soup. So tarragon, of course, is indigenous to Spain, and it's just a marvelous herb that really brightens up a dish. You don't have to use this. In fact, you don't have to follow my recipe at all. Create your own as long as you have, even that's a misstatement, because originally Gazpacho was all about bread, crusty bread, garlic, and there were no tomatoes in it because tomatoes yet had not reached the European marketplace. So before you do that, take off your little crown. The crown goes away first. There you go. Yep, perfect. And, well, Kal's got that going on. I'm going to take some garlic because we need garlic in this dish.
You need garlic in everything.
Need garlic everywhere. Keep those vampires at bay, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just going to smash these. And again, if you smash the garlic before you dice it, it has a much sweeter flavor to it. We're not looking for the harsh tones or notes in this, particularly since we're not going to be cooking this. Those tomatoes smell exquisite, don't they? So just use your bench or a cutting board and bust this down. We're not necessarily making a paste out of this, but we just want to break down these little diced portions.
Yours definitely smells a lot better than mine does. Maybe I'm just biased towards garlic though.
Maybe. All right, so we're mixing together the tarragon, the garlic, the extra virgin olive oil, and the red wine vinegar. By putting the herbs in first, they have a tendency to expand their flavors and open up a bit. And that's what I'm kind of going for. The next thing is I'm going to take some limes. How you doing there?
Pretty good.
Time of your life, right? So if you take the limes and if you roll them first, we talk about this all the time, it's easier to juice them and you get a better yield as well.
Something so meditative about just cutting produce.
Yeah, it's
like puts me in a sleep state.
Sure, it's like relationships, but different, right? And for a little bit of change up, because this is, after all, a Spanish dish, I'm going to use an orange here as well.
Yeah, I'm excited about that.
We'll pretend that it's a Valencia orange. It's not, it's just a navel. But here in the Midwest, sometimes you get what you get. A little stir action here. Keep everything in motion and happy. A little bit of black peppercorn and kosher salt. Now our orange. Nice and juicy, I'll see that for. There are all sorts of modern day gazpachos being made with melon and kiwi and all sorts of things, and that's cool. They're really nice and they're refreshing for summertime, but I think something a little more traditional is more satisfying. And that's what we're doing.
It's always great to have something to fall back on. Good base recipe.
So that's that. I want to have a little squirt of balsamic vinegar in here as well. This is one of those things that I have begun doing some 20 odd years ago. Seems to work out well. And then we're going to take this onion. This also came from the farmer's market. It is a lovely onion. It doesn't matter if you use whites or yellows, the dailies if you got them, absolutely. But this red will certainly suffice. And as these are a farm to table onion, they have a little sweeter flavor than many of the commercially grown onions do. That's about all we need of that. If you would be so kind as to take this now and to bust this down, and just the same kind of thing, bridge with your fingers.
Yeah.
All right. While you're doing that, I would take one of these cucumbers, meeny, meeny, miny, mo. I'm going to wash it first, get the dirt off. Again, the dirt direct from that farm field this morning. Some recipes call for these to be seeded. I don't care about the seeds so much. So we're just going to take the cuke, cut it in half, take off our end, and we're going to get this down the same way. We're just going to slice her, and seeds and all, skins, we're not going to peel this thing because I like the flavor. I like the texture.
Nutrients.
And since I'm driving this bus, it's going to be the way I want it. Yes, and nutrients. So you have a specific diet that you've been following.
Yes.
And it is because of your preference, not because of any health concerns. Or maybe there's a combination.
Correct. Yeah. Okay. So I actually am a vegan. I don't eat any meat or animal byproduct.
Okay.
And so I wanted to definitely do something when I was cooking with Bob. He asked what I wanted to make, and typically people shy away from the vegan alternatives, you know. But something that is typically already produce-based, people are more comfortable and familiar with, and you know, more willing and open to try. So this I thought was a good happy medium for the first vegan dish here from me. Anyways, I heard that there have been some in the past.
Quite a few, actually. So
Yeah.
I think if we do well with this episode, we'll probably come back in a couple of days and do something with eggplant and or just zucchinis and just play around a little bit.
Okay. With good summertime fruits before they go away.
We also have the lovely aroma of fresh dill coming from right behind us. And it is intoxicating, and it is
Beautiful.
fantastic.
It's
I can't wait to
gorgeous.
cook with that. So I had done some Mediterranean-style stuffed peppers for my kids this week. And,
you did stuffed peppers this week too?
I did, and I always employ dill into that. Dill and fresh mint, oregano, of course. We're not using oregano in this dish. We could, but I think the tarragon will suffice more than adequately for that.
I'll have to try that in my next recipe.
And in the conclusion, we'll have a chiffonade of fresh basil on top. Just kind of clear my workspace a little bit here. And if I can have a little room here. All right, so at this point, we're going to take our cucumber into the bowl, our onion into the bowl, and these toms we are going to take down a little further, and about a third of those we're going to take and put into our blender, which is right over there. So I want to have some of these textural components. I mean, this is a real nice size. You think about things that in a soup you want to have about a spoonful size, and that you get beyond a spoon size and it's kind of unwieldy and not quite as pleasurable. But again, look at these gorgeous tomatoes, man, and they really, the aroma of a fresh tomato is intoxicating.
It smells like summer.
So Kal, how long have you been a vegan?
Whew. What year is it? 4 or 5 years. Yeah. And before that, I was a normal person. I did eat meat every single day. But you know, sometimes you just switch it up.
And why not? Good for you. Obviously,
Yeah.
you've worn it well.
Yeah, thank you.
So, do you eat seafood at all?
I don't. So
Okay.
right before I went vegan, I was pescatarian for 9 months prior.
Right.
And I did enjoy that quite a bit because before I...
Small pieces in here, larger pieces going here.
Okay. Because before, when I was, you know, a meat eater, I wasn't very into seafood. So it was cool to kind of experience all the things that I said no to my whole entire life. So I always say, like, if I ever were to go back to, you know, eating everything again, I would be, you know, such an unpicky eater because I just eat everything now.
What about grains? Do you have any particular favorites with those?
Not really. I like them all.
All is good.
Anything that tastes carby, you know, fills me up.
So just a little blast of olive oil on top of that. And just to kind of put this on our blender, cover it well first. People often make a mistake with a great blender that really churns things out by not covering it and putting it down properly. So I can't say enough about a Vitamix. I've used them for years and they really do the job consistently in a commercial kitchen, time and time and time again. They're remarkable.
So good.
And they're not paying me to say that. All right, so we've got this as a loose mulch right now, and this is going to go into here as well. And then we're going to take our bread. And while I get the bread going in the oven, I'd like to take one of these banana chilies, and these are semi-sharp, so these need to be washed off first. And if you just take one like this one and wash it and then cut it down into about 1/4 inch pieces, that'll be grand.
Okay.
Thank you. So you have this lovely ciabatta that Kal had brought in today. She sourced it from somewhere. And we're just going to toast it a little bit. Actually, I'll cut this in half first. And literally 5 minutes tops on there is all we need. And this dish is really almost done. As soon as you get the pepper into here, no hurry. to want to get a little bit of sherry. So this is Osborne's Fine Spanish Sherry. I prefer using either a fino or amontillado. Cream sherry would not be my preference here, but again, today all sorts of things are taking place in the culinary world. Now we, of course, will be tasting this in a few short minutes, but the opportunity to have this sit for a couple of hours makes such a significant difference. It's just like, I'm sure you've all experienced making something like a lasagna or a fine pasta or something, and you have leftovers the next day. They really taste so much more
better.
intense because the flavors all come together.
Do I miss cheese? I did for a really long time, but luckily the vegan world has come a really, really long way in creating cheese alternatives, because I tried them when I first went vegan and was not a fan at all, to say the least. But now it's kind of funny. I'm like a jerky and cheese connoisseur, but like all vegan. And so weird because I was never like that beforehand, and I don't know. Flavors change, profiles change.
Well, we could talk about synthetic proteins for all sorts of things. Obviously, there's a significant movement to go that direction for meats as well. So how do you feel about those synthetic products?
I like them, the majority of them. Are they super duper healthy for you? I'm not going to say that. But of course, I am not doing this for health, so it doesn't particularly matter to me. I think that it's texture for a lot of people that it bothers, but you really aren't missing. I feel like more than anything, you miss flavors. So if you can flavor and you can season and you can make something super delicious and get all of the secondary components in it, you really don't miss that primary component all that much. It's
Cool.
more of just like a vehicle for getting all those flavors. That's what it's all about, is those flavors.
All right, we'll take those even finer. So now
Yeah.
we'll bust those down like 1/4 inch pieces or 3/8. And in the meantime, I've developed a chiffonade here. Chiffonade is merely taking an herb like this and cutting it super thin, so you got these little tendrils, and this is where your flavor is. This should be done right before you serve. I go to many restaurants where they do this the first thing in the morning, and by the time you get dinner service, it's all blackened and the essential oils have worked themselves out, and it's really unappetizing. So cut this right before you do this. Don't try to save it, it's not going to work out. You can integrate this into a different dish, but don't try to save this as a garnish at that point. See how our bread is doing? Almost. And if you don't mind, let me add that for a minute.
All my fingers would be gone.
Well, you start out slow.
Or they'd be on the cutting board at least. I
you
wouldn't
go.
say they'd be gone, but.
We're not cooking for the queen. We're not looking for exactly identically sized pieces here. Just want to bust them down a little bit so you don't get just a big wad of pepper in your spoonful. All right. Little stirry thing there. One hot loaf of bread. Now, if we allow this to sit for a moment and cool off, it'll be easier to cut, but we are going to boldly go forward without that. Bread knife makes a big difference. And I'm not kidding, this is fresh from the oven. So you could take it just like this, or we could oil this up and get a little garlic on top of this. almost form like a little roux or something. Frenchify this, but this smells fantastic. The yeast is just coming up right now. So my inclination really is just to cut these as they are. And to, again, this will work better if you let it cool first. We're just impatient here today.
It looks and smells so good.
It does smell so good. It's amazing how some people really recoil at the smell of yeast, but it is the essence of life on this planet in so many ways. How do you feel about tofu?
It's great when it's prepared the way that I like it, and it can be prepared a million different ways. I like it crispy. I'm not a fan of the texture. But tofu takes on the flavor of whatever you cook it with, which is cool. So you just kind of add it into whatever, but for me it's a texture thing. It's not my favorite protein alternative.
So bread and soup is really a European concept, and it just works so incredibly well anyway. So what we're going to do with this is we're just going to put this into our bowls.
Gorgeous.
And do a smattering in the bottom of each one.
Warm.
And I'm going to guess that we need a little more salt and pepper on this. I suggest that you taste things all the time. I'm tasting with my mind. How's that? Now, traditionally, we serve this in these little whiskey glasses here, and it's a nice starter for everything. We're going to take our little chiffonade of basil. It's that simple, and again, a little more balsamic. I really love the play on the balsamic and how it enhances everything going on with the tomato and the garlic and all that good lovely stuff. Folks, here we have it. And this is our gazpacho at Shakers. Kal did a marvelous job making her first attempt at cooking in the kitchen with us.
Thank you, thank you, thank
Success,
you.
her fingers are all attached. Hope to see you soon. I hope you enjoy it. It's very important that you're good to yourselves, be good to people you love, and just get in the kitchen and enjoy doing something. Cheers.